Welcome back in. Thank you for being with us on Colatown. My name is Kevin Cohen. We are together till 10 o'clock. Thanks again to John Banks for coming on in and hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. So let's turn our attention to something else that's going on here in our community. Something that really, I think, especially with I think a lot of folks don't know enough about, need to learn more about, and I've got a couple of folks here that can help us learn a little bit more about it. In the studio, we have Kameisha Heppard, who is here with us, and Johnasten Cooper. And Kameisha, the Director of Homeless Services, and Johnasten is the Homeless Services Program Coordinator. And, I was talking about this before Colatown started on our morning show. I was talking about this. Mayor Rickman says, first of all, this is not a Columbia problem. This is a problem all over the country, all over the. There's not a major community anywhere in America that's not dealing with unsheltered problems and with people when it comes to homeless. But it's become a major issue in Columbia, and I really think we need to talk a little bit about what we're doing, what we're trying to do, what we can do, how people that are hearing today's program can be more aware of what's going on around us. So this is kind of a half hour, I think, where we have an opportunity to really kind of educate a little bit about what is going on. So first of all, thank you guys for coming in. Good morning.
Good morning.
How we doing? Everybody in a good mood?
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Hey, I'm really glad you guys are hanging out with us. All right, so let's dive into this thing and tackle this thing a little bit. We've got homeless services in Columbia available for the folks that need it. Let's talk a little about who the community is when it comes to those that we hear now. The term more is unsheltered or unhoused, things like that. Yeah, I don't care what word we use. We're just talking about people that are down on their luck or people that have mental illness or what. Tell me who we're dealing with.
Absolutely. So the city of Columbia started Rapid Shelter Columbia back in November 22, and they aim to serve the chronically unsheltered within the city of Columbia, which means a person has been homeless for 12 consecutive months with the diagnoses. So that's who we have been serving for the past 3 years. But we also know that there's another segment of unsheltered out there that needs attention.
When it comes to this segment of the population, there's so many reasons why someone ends up in this position. A lot of times you talked about diagnosed because we're talking about mental illness. We're talking about some things. We've got and listen, I'm going to stay in my lane and let you guys be the experts here, but I'm just going to speak about it from what I've been able to learn. And we've got everyone, it can happen to anyone that can run into a string of bad luck. They can lose their home, they can lose their job, they can have something where it happens because I know people that have had a serious medical situation where the bills were just so bad they lost everything. Right. That kind of thing has happened to people. We've got military that come back from serving and they can't get themselves reacclimated to our society and they end up on the street, things like that. So this can be your next door neighbor one day. This could be someone you grew up with. We are not sitting here and painting any one picture of any one demographic. This can be anybody.
Absolutely.
Fair?
Fair.
Absolutely,
okay.
Man.
Yeah. So let's look at it from that perspective right up front, because I think people need to realize that the guy walking down that street, before you go and judge him or her, you don't know their story. And there is a story. Everybody's got a story. No one wakes up and just decides, hey, I'd rather live out in the elements than with a shelter. And the way most of us that are listening to this radio station, or the three of us, we're blessed to have what we have. So let's talk a little bit about how are we understanding what these people's stories are? How are we trying to help them? What are we doing?
So meeting individuals where they are, not having any judgment, listening to what they have experienced. Because you're right, an individual does not make the decision to just sleep in the elements, right? There's situations that bring them to that, and then they conform to the life of sleeping in the elements, which means they may then indulge in substance to make it through the day. So then now they're unsheltered and they are addicted to a substance. So those are the individuals that we're trying to serve, and how we're trying to serve them is bring the resources that they need. So the city of Columbia just in October opened up a recovery community center, and this is for unsheltered as well as individuals that are sheltered, but we're meeting those needs. We have community partners on site, ready to serve those with mental health, substance, primary care services. So we're just trying to be creative and innovative in the way that we do things. We know that what we have done for the past 10 years is not now working in 2026. So with that, the City of Columbia has decided to contract a consulting firm to come in the community, engage with partners through focus groups, interviews, surveys, and looking at data locally, regionally, and nationally, and seeing what we can do.
I had the mayor in with us. He comes in once a month and hangs out with me, and we do the show, and he takes phone calls from our listeners. And generally speaking, that's the number one issue he has to deal with from callers is not a lack of compassion or empathy from people, but just the uncomfortable situation you're in when you're approached by somebody who is in that situation. And as a guy myself right here on Millwood Avenue who gets here at 4:40 in the morning, I will tell you it is a very uncomfortable feeling that time of the morning when somebody approaches you as you're pulling up and somebody walks up to you. And again, you're not thinking that there's any malice. That doesn't mean they're evil just because they're down on their luck. But it's still not an easy feeling when you're by yourself. The sun's not even up yet, and already somebody's walking right at you at that situation. So, Chief Holbrook was on a couple weeks ago with us, and the mayor's been on. Excuse me. And I don't want to get into the specifics of because everybody's got their own story. We don't want to give money. And we don't want to enable the problem. I've often been in that situation where if I have food, I'll offer that to them, but I won't offer money to them. Right. For a while, believe it or not, I hope it doesn't make you laugh because it's a true story. I would when there was just a large population during some colder months, not this past year, but a year ago, I ended up having where I brought Pop-Tarts with me, and every morning. And word got around, so I had to stop doing it. Mm-hmm. But every morning, instead of someone asking me for money, I said, well, I don't have any money, but you want my breakfast? And I would give them my Pop-Tarts. Mm-hmm. And that worked, and they were really appreciative of it, because who doesn't like Pop-Tarts? But the point is, unfortunately, I had to stop, because then the word got around, right. This guy's the Pop-Tart guy, and people started showing up looking for Pop-Tarts every day. So the point is, we don't want anyone to be uncomfortable. We don't want anybody to be approached and feel like our city is not safe. But at the same time, what do you suggest people do if they are approached by somebody in that situation? What are we recommending? How do you want people to handle it?
So I do advocate not to engage with panhandlers. One, because it's dangerous. Right. You don't know what that person has on them when they approach you. Two, because in some forms you are enabling right. that person. So what I would suggest is that you find an organization that's doing the work that you trust, you do some research on them, and then you donate your money there. And what you are looking for when you're doing the research is for how much money goes to direct client services. Right. And then you can make your determination if you want to provide financial support to that agency.
So let's go back to what we were talking about with the whole RCC. And that's at Hope Plaza. Where is that?
Hope Plaza is at 2401 Main Street, across from Transitions Homeless Center.
Right. So one of the things the mayor talked to me about is trying to get a lot of people on the same page. Look, if we're going to be honest about this topic, then we have to be honest about the fact that a lot of people come up with that horrible disease called not in my backyard when it comes to wanting to help. Oh, yeah, we want to do this, we want to do that. Okay, well, we're thinking about putting a shelter over here. No. Not in my backyard. That's going to lower my property value. So getting the whole city on the same page in terms of all the different groups, because there's a lot of groups that want to help, but it doesn't seem like we've been able to get everybody on the same page about what the best way to do it is. And that's what the mayor's told me has been his biggest frustration, is that you do have a lot of good people that want to help. So hopefully what's going on now with more of a central location, and maybe that's the start of something?
I would hope that it is, and you're right. Everybody is doing a little something, and we do need to get on the same page. And this is why, for me, it's an exciting time, because the City of Columbia's contracted the consultants, and Columbia Area Mental Health has contracted consultants to cover Richland County. So I feel like the work is being done at the same time, and I have reached out so that the consultants can collaborate together and do the work, so we're not double working and we're getting more work done with the two entities.
Yeah, we don't want to sit here and duplicate our services, which has also been a problem where the resources could be better used instead of too much of duplication and things like that. So let's kind of talk a little bit about what we hope to get done with the RCC, the Recovery Community Center. I mean, what are some of the goals? What are some of the things that maybe we've learned from the consulting and from I even said this. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Some other cities have tried some things that are working better in their communities, and that's something else that I know Mayor Rickenman told me. It's the first thing he talks about with other mayors when they go to these mayors conferences. Hey, what's working for you guys on the homeless issue? So what are some of the things that we're focusing on?
So at the Recovery Community Center, we did the research, and you're right, we did not recreate the wheel. We found something that was working someplace else, and we brought it to Columbia. We had to conform a little bit because Columbia is a special city. But the objective at the Recovery Community Center is to provide peer support for individuals who are ready, so that they have that line of support there. If it's mental health, if it's substance, whatever it is, if it's employment, it's all there at the Recovery Community Center.
Yeah. And in our second half, Johnasten, I want to talk a little bit more about the programming side of it, because I think we need to talk about the fact that if someone, and this is the big if someone's willing to get help, then there's help available. But the problem is, educating them that there are programming and there's a path for them. And then obviously something that Kameisha mentioned at the very beginning, when you got mental illness and you got people who are on their meds or not on their meds and this and that, those are all factors that make this that much more complex and that much more difficult.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's not an easy solve. It really is not at all an easy solve. It's a challenging problem for every community around America, but in our community, no different, because again, there's the old saying, you can only lead a horse to water. You can't make him drink it. So we've got shelters, we've got programs, we've got this and that, people that want to help. But if you don't want to get help, or if the mental illness makes it that much more difficult, it's a challenge. It really is. All right, hold tight. We're going to do our timeout. We're going to come back. I want to talk a little bit more about programming, talk a little bit more about what we're doing. We've got Kameisha and Johnasten here with us. We're talking about homelessness and the unsheltered in the capital city. Stick around. Hey, welcome back in. This is Colatown on a Monday morning. Thank you for being with us. In the studio with me this morning, we've got Kameisha Heppard, who is the Director of Homeless Services, Johnasten Cooper, who is with Homeless Services Program as a coordinator for our city of Columbia. And we've been talking about, and we've identified the obvious, okay? We have identified the issue, but now I'm the kind of guy that really believes not just in talking about naming the problem, but what are we doing as a solution? I'm the kind of guy that likes that you guys come to the table here and you didn't show up without ideas and dreams and hopes and solutions. So let's talk a little bit about Rapid Shelter, because I think people need to hear what that is. And then let's talk about some of the programming that's going on with the RCC, which is the Recovery Community Center. And Johnasten, let's talk a little bit first about Rapid Shelter. What is that?
Yeah, Rapid Shelter Columbia is the city's innovative non-congregate shelter. It is a low-barrier shelter, meaning that folks have access to a door that they can lock and take care of themselves in the privacy of their own. Different from many other shelters, our residents engage in intensive case management. So while residents are at Rapid Shelter Columbia, at this innovative shelter, they're getting the skills that you and I think are just everyday common skills. My learning curve coming into the homeless, working with the unsheltered population, was there are people that have been unhoused as long as I have been alive. And so just imagine for the first time that person having a key to turn a door that belongs to them. That's the housing first model.
Sure. And that's one of the biggest reasons why a lot of people that I have been talked to that are unsheltered have said, no, I don't want to go to a shelter because my stuff gets messed with, or I don't have any privacy, or I don't feel safe myself. And this gives them a little bit of a barrier to that, gives them the opportunity to have their own door to shut.
Absolutely.
Right. You mentioned some of the programming from the standpoint of employment training and skills, teaching life skills.
Absolutely. So, again, with individuals not having had a regular life, a place to call home, a place to wake up, wash their face, brush their teeth, make their own breakfast, it's important to reintegrate those soft skills. One, because they're going to be your neighbor or my neighbor one day. Our goal for our residents at Rapid Shelter is for them to be permanently housed, and that's through support. We created an aftercare program that continues that support after individuals are housed. But those soft skills and those programs, they're brought to us by our community partners, our faith-based partners, groups and organizations that we like to call grassroots that are doing the grunt work, really coming in and helping our individuals find a new sense of community.
So this is like a 3-month program that people come in for, and I think you said something that can almost get glossed over if we don't center in on it, and that is a lot of the things that you guys are teaching and a lot of things that we're showing are things that most of us that are listening to this program right now take for granted.
Absolutely.
Dental health, making sure that if you need glasses, we get you glasses, something like that. Certain educational things, a little more financial literacy, that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. We partner with a lot of banks. Banks come in and do some intensive courses with our clients, just teaching them the basics of savings, creating a savings account, creating a checkings account, being able to have a place for their income to come when it starts coming in.
Right. Peer support and counseling and things like that. Someone that where if they're willing to let their guard down a little bit, they're going to realize that the guy sitting next to them maybe has gone through something, and they're not the only one. They're not fighting this. They're not on an island by themselves.
Absolutely. You said it best in the first part of the segment. You can take the horse to the water, but you can't make it drink.
Right.
The most important thing is that these resources are ready and available when individuals want to take advantage of them. We engage in something called outreach. That's literally us taking those resources to the unsheltered camps, in the woods, places where we know there's a high count of the unsheltered, and really putting those resources in front of them. So when they are ready, they can take advantage of them.
Yeah. One of the things, and then I want to go back to something else we talked about earlier, but one of the things that I think you guys are working on when I was doing my research for this with the RSC, that's Rapid Shelter, for folks that don't know, Rapid Shelter Columbia, is you're also teaching some life skills. And this is the thing that I think is lost, because a lot of these individuals might not be up on communication or on how to handle conflict and manage that, because, again, how many of us know how to deal with somebody that might have mental illness? How many of us know how? Because we're just trying to take care of ourselves. That's full-time job. But when you got somebody else who's coming at you in a population like this is not an easy thing. And so I just feel like you guys are giving our unsheltered an opportunity that maybe no one else have given them. Maybe they lost some hope on, and maybe that there's hope is a pretty nice weapon to have in your pocket if you've lost it and you get it back. That's a nice thing. A lot of these guys and gals, and by the way, it is gals. Don't be fooled out there. There's not just a bunch of men. There's plenty of women out there that are living out on the street also.
Yes.
And it's tragic, but it's real. So I just think if we can give people hope and get them to the table, then I think maybe you guys can do your magic at that point.
I think it would be mixed with hope and trust.
Yeah.
Because when we find our individuals, they've been unsheltered so long and so many traumatic things have happened to them, they have lost their hope and their trust.
Yeah.
And if we could build the hope and the trust with an individual, we can go far from there. And I just wanted to clarify something. You said that the program is 90 days, and on paper it does say 90 days.
Right.
But we know that it's a lot of unpacking that has to happen. So we have kept people for a year because it took that long to get their foundation rebuilt and prepare them for housing.
Safe to say, if you A, have the room, and B, they're playing by the rules, you're not kicking them out if they're making progress. I mean,
Amen.
Why would you ever want to get someone 40% of the along the way when you know that they want to get 100%?
Right.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to have a problem if it stays more than 90 days, if it means they're on the right path.
Right.
And there's got to be cooperation, though. I mean, the key, though, is that, like Johnasten just said, if you get the horse to the water and they're willing to start drinking, then you're halfway home because you've got a willing participant who wants to get better, who wants to improve his or her lot in life. And if you get that, I mean, that's a big part of it is just getting them there to want to learn. I think that's important. The biggest thing that most of the people talk to me about on this radio program, because we're a call-in show, not Colatown, but I mean our radio station as a whole. We do a lot of local programming, and we are a call-in radio station. And the biggest thing that people wrestle with, and I'm sure you've heard this before, it's not a lack of compassion, and it's not a lack of wanting to see a better life for people. It's the uncertainty and it's the fear of not knowing how to handle situations. So I'm glad first that Kameisha, you mentioned about engagement, about what to do and what not to do. Probably not smart to go handing out Pop-Tarts, but nonetheless, whatever, I did what I did. But my point is that I don't know what to tell people when they call up and they say, well, I got approached at the so-and-so over on Elmwood, or I got, and that's a problem area over there. And there's certain areas around town that are just problem areas. And I feel bad for the small business owners who have to deal with this, because they've got a lot of these unsheltered homeless folk that are in their parking lots or this or that. That's hard for a business to overcome, because people don't feel comfortable coming to your business in that situation. So what do you recommend if you talked about doing your research, donating to those causes. What if people want more hands-on? What if they want to actually get involved as volunteers? What do you suggest that they can do?
Volunteers?
Yes.
I'm going to say contact Johnasten, but I'm going to let him take that at the end. I do want to say that I appreciate you highlighting every aspect and perspective of this. I've been doing the work for a long time, and I've been with the city for the past 3 years, and it has opened my eyes to the perspective from the neighbors and the business owners. I work with them now because I'm in this position, and I see what our unsheltered residents are doing to their properties, how they are making the areas decrease and decline. And so from my perspective as a city employee, I have to look at the whole picture.
Sure.
How do I help the unsheltered? How do I help the sheltered? So I appreciate you putting all the aspects out there. But for volunteerism, I'm going to hand it to Johnasten.
Yes, what you got?
Yeah, and I'll just say, just get involved. No matter where you are, no matter how you can, get involved. Understand the resources that are available in the area and connect those individuals. So maybe I don't have a breakfast Pop-Tart for you, but at the Recovery Community Center, there's breakfast. There's meal sharing.
Sure.
So groups and organizations that want to do meals can do it safely in a commercial kitchen on the site of our Recovery Center. So folks are now getting a meal, and then they're going over to get services. And so just closing the loop and learning what's available to really provide support for folks in my area.
I just think the people that are listening, we all want what's best for, anybody out there, and I'm not trying to get too spiritual, but anybody out there who believes in God and has God in their lives, we want to see all these people that are suffering on the street to find a better path, and we want them to find some joy in their lives. And I hope that they can get the help that they need. The city is trying. That's my message, is that this is not something that the city's, number one, not aware of, B, looking the other way. The city is trying from the top down. Everybody is aware of it, and everybody's trying to do a better job of it. And I want people to get involved. I want people to care. I want you to make a donation to the right cause, and if you can't do that, donate your time. Donate your effort. But let's see what we can do to help people that need our help. I'm really glad you guys came in. Thank you.
Thank
both
you
for coming on in and hanging out. Is there a website or anything that people should know about, or anything where they can find out more?
Yeah, for more information, to get involved, to volunteer, you can email rsc@columbiasc.gov.
Thank you guys. Thanks for coming in. That's Colatown on a Monday at The Point.